Olympia Kwitowski, and today I'm going to be having a chat to Mike Roddy, who is the Director of Technology People. And Mike, firstly, congratulations, because you've actually been doing what you do for 25 years.
Oh, thank you very much, Olympia. I know, 25 years. In fact, I didn't realise it was 25 years until it was actually a client of mine who said to me, well, Mike, you know what you've been doing it for 25 years. And I didn't even realise where those 25 years have gone. But yes, I can't believe it. And I thought, well, you tend to get a bit of wisdom along the way. You make a lot of mistakes, I might add, but 25 years, can't believe it.
Well, it's the common cliche that if you do what you love, you won't work a day in your life. So perhaps that's why you didn't realise it was 25 years.
Yeah, indeed. And I do, I'm very fortunate. I'm just a privileged guy, honestly. I've had a real adventure, and may longer continue, I might add. But I mean, essentially, it's been a real eye-opener. I mean, I had a former corporate background, and I went into small business, relatively small business compared to, I used to work for Telstra many years ago. I used to, in a completely different field of endeavour. And I then went into the world of recruitment, and I never even knew it existed as an industry. And from there on end, it's been a wonderful career that's taken me all around the world. I've been involved in companies of all different sizes. I've been in environments where I've worked with clients in terms of determining their workforce planning, and my specialty is IT recruitment, but of course I've had a few permutations to that as well. And it's been wonderful and so rewarding and ever changing, I might add.
Now, Mike, you did say there, you went into a bit of your background of working with Telstra, and you said that you didn't really know at the time that recruitment was a thing. So how did you find that that was a thing, and it was a thing that you were really good at?
Yeah, well, yeah, I let others judge if I'm really good at it, but I think in the end what I did find was that I've always been a people person, and that's what everyone keeps telling me. And essentially, for those who know how good I am with financials and everything else, I think it was a backhanded compliment to say, stay away from the finances, but stay with the people. So I've always been in sales in some capacity. So I enjoy people, I love people, I can interact with them, and that's where I get my most fulfillment. So I think it was a natural step to get involved in building networks, and if you can build a business out of that, hallelujah, right? I mean, and that's what I've done. And I've been involved in that and bringing people together. I think the term I use mostly these days is building networks that matter. And then from a business perspective, it has really, it's been so rewarding. But the true reward is, in fact, only last week we brought a lunch of senior IT leaders from around southeast Queensland together purely for one reason, just to come together, introduce yourselves, build their networks, and have some colleagues that they can call in the industry who are all on the same journey, and that is digital transformation, and I love it. And and I've built a wonderful team along with my business partners, and every day is, as I said, do what you love, kind of what you do, what you love.
It is always good when you do what you love, and you're always striving for the next best thing and the next big thing and the next challenge. Well, what have been some of your challenges that you might have faced along the way?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, the biggest challenge of them all was only, 3 or 4 years ago with COVID. I mean, notwithstanding, it doesn't matter what industry you were involved, but that was a real, how could you plan for that? In fact, I started Technology People Queensland 1 month out from COVID, wondering, what have I done? And so for those first 3 months, everyone was like a deer in the headlights, weren't they? We didn't know what to do.
Absolutely no preparation, not knowing what to expect.
But what was interesting, though, is we all survived in general terms, and here we are. But what was interesting was that in the world of technology recruitment, and I didn't know at the time, you couldn't plan for it, but that really did create a demand for technology specialists of all different disciplines. And more than ever before, the demand for that is that if you ever be in an industry that's going to be fortuitous in terms of success, IT, technology is definitely the one. That was a nice because everyone wanted to work from home, they had to develop the skill sets in terms of technology, they had to develop all sorts of new processes, and business is broken up into people, process and technology. And we're at that people and technology bit. And that's where I was very, very fortunate. But it levelled out though, because when the government kind of let more people into the country, that provided a little bit more in-demand candidate. But I'm getting into very specifics though. Cannot complain. COVID's been good for us in some ways, but those first 3 or 4 months I will never forget.
I'll just share my little story with you as well. So I'd actually started really focusing on my MCing career because and that would have been probably about 2 months before COVID came along. So obviously working in radio, a lot of changes, a lot of mergers with radio stations as well. So I was the result of a merger, losing the producing job that I was doing in about September of 2019, and had decided that I was going to, after that had finished, going to focus on MCing. So everything was going really great into the new year. I had heaps of bookings taking me right through to that year. And then in about, I think it was March, COVID came along. And of course, being a face-to-face thing, going out to events, they were all cancelled.
Yeah, but you know though, the one thing about your career, and you've got to forgive me because I'm in career advisory, so I've been looking at your background and following you for quite a while. So you adapted. And that's what so many of us did.
That's right, the pivot.
The pivot point, absolutely.
Yes.
You pivoted, and effectively, so that pivoting from literally you had your everything from traffic reporting, and now you host your own show on 4BC on the weekends, and essentially you've just done everything that's really in the media. So that adaptability, that skill set, but also that's the world we live in now.
And one thing that was great during that time, and particularly for us here in Queensland, we were very lucky, we were quite lenient, we could sort of travel somewhat freely around, but was the COVID safe events that were still able to go ahead. And of course, IT played a big part in that because we did plenty of online shows. I remember, talking down the camera to audiences at home who were tuning into a concert to watch performances. So it's really quite amazing.
I remember that. I remember some of the collaboration that used to go on with various musicians towards the end there. Yeah. And I get to travel around the country, and I've got to say the one city that I think the poor soul suffered the most was Melbourne.
Absolutely.
Who was literally locked up for 2 years, and without being over the top about that, but it really was so constraining for Melbourne. And I get down there every 3 weeks because we've got so wonderful clients and candidates in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane predominantly, but we service the country. But the reality is, I think Melbourne's starting to reawaken again now, which is good news, but it'll take a little while.
I was down there as well. Hadn't been down for a number of years, and I was down there in about February this year, and I had really noticed the change. It seemed to have lost its cosmopolitan sort of feel and that really vibey sort of place that it just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah. Well, I guess, and going back to your question about the major changes, well, obviously, GFC is a long time ago, so I won't go too much about that. Profits were just down, but in the end, everything rebounded. But COVID was the big one. But what I have found, though, is because of the advent and the rapid pace of technology change, a lot of our clients refer to as the digital transformation and the journey they're on. The biggest threats today remain, as we all know, cybersecurity.
Of course.
Everybody that has anything to do with technology, whether a mobile phone, laptop, or anything at all, we all bank and we all use technology for everything now. So effectively, cyber. When I look at our business, our demand for cybersecurity, data analytics, infrastructure, they're the main points at the moment in terms of in-demand skill sets. And developers who develop all the apps on phones, etc., and project management and ICT leadership, well, they'll always be there. But cyber and data really is the main focus at the moment going around the country.
And Mike, would you have much to do with perhaps the educating of people, educating them what not to do when it comes to the scams that we're faced with every day? It seems there must be like millions of scams popping up every single day.
They are, absolutely. So the beauty of, this is where I really do make sure that I can access, it's like the old Henry Ford thing. He didn't know everything, but he knew how to get everything. So I have myself and my team of technology people, we have access to incredible leaders in their space, whether it be cyber IT, or CIOs, etc. So we facilitate that. But there was one story I did share last week over a lunch. I was walking along the street there and someone saw I had my Technology People shirt on. She didn't introduce herself. She came up to me, this young lady, and said to me, "Can you help me with my phone? I've had a breach or whatever, security alert." Now she automatically assumed because I have technology on my shirt that I was clever enough to answer this question.
Yeah.
I had to come clean there and then and said, "I'm sorry," and whatever. So she left very disappointed, and whatever. But I know, yes, people are always asking us, what can we do in the event of a fail in regards to technology? And I always say, well, I can take that question on notice
And find someone.
and find someone who's a bit cleverer than I am. It's always the way.
Now, out of COVID, of course, a lot of people decided to start up a podcast. Did your podcast start up during this COVID time?
Well, did it? Well, it's a good question. Yeah, I think it did. It's about 3 years old now. But the seed of career journeys and aspirations, which I love talking about, and I'm super excited because it's always been audio until now, because I really don't have a face for TV or the front of the camera. So I did it all audio. That's just my joke. So essentially what I've been doing is career journeys existed for one reason. Well, that was to literally showcase some incredible leadership in and around the country of everyday people, and I call it everyday people, not the typical, not the Olympia Kwitowskis, etc., but the ones that are not so well known. And it came about through running a career advisory business. And Olympia, I used to interview some incredibly talented CEOs, CIOs, etc., and they would gloss over what they've achieved with their career. They would say, yes, we opened up the Philippines and we did this in South Island, New Zealand, and we opened up 16 branches and this and that. And they'd gloss over it. And I said, stop. Tell me what precisely, how did that benefit the business? Yeah. Well, it secured X thousand more customers. It literally brought in 2.5 more million in revenue, whatever the numbers were.
Shining a spotlight.
Absolutely. And all these great achievements. And I found that when people started talking about themselves, not in an arrogant, look at me sort of mindset, but talking about what they've achieved, they came alive. Yeah. And after 45 minutes to an hour, they would walk out like they'd just been to a therapist, saying, that was so good. Yeah. And they never had the opportunity or they never had an audience to listen to them. And then
you gave them that voice to talk. Like I always say, Mike, when I'm interviewing someone on the radio, sometimes people will ask me they'll ask me a question, like, give me the questions of what you're going to ask me. They want to be prepared. Yeah. And I don't like to do that, because as soon as someone starts talking about what they do or what they're passionate about, and I always say there is no one who can tell your story better than you.
Well, great advice.
That's why you're talking to them. That's why you're getting your guests on your podcast. And that's why I'm talking to people on the radio, because they're doing what they do, and that's what we want to know about and hear their stories.
Well, great advice. And I will say to you that essentially, and what that does though, some of the wisdom that comes from their journey, and it's the reason why, is really, I get feedback all the time. Wow, I never realised Lynn did this, or Paula did that, etc., or Steve achieved this, and this is something I've put in my own life. So the idea is to share little anecdotes, things you can take away, and that's what it's all intended for, just sharing a little bit of great insights and literally understanding, particularly for the younger audience, how do I choose a career of choice? And my simple advice, by the way, is be curious. Try different things, and that's essentially, you'll find what you love, and if you can make $1 out of it, well and good, huh? So as I said, that's how Career Journeys came about, and I found that there was a willing audience, and I'm excited now because moving forward we're going to go visual as well. Great. With a little bit more content, and we're changing the format in terms of the questions I had, and I used to focus a lot on. It is about personal achievement, but I'm going to talk a little bit more now how they're managing themselves for the future, and what is the future, and focus more on the aspiration element, and what are they going to do differently in their mind shift compared to maybe with an answer they would have given maybe pre-COVID. The lessons learned sort of thing there, but I can't give too much away, Olympia.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, it's going to be, it's going to be. But I'm about 3 weeks' time we're launching, so I'm super excited. you should come on as a guest, Olympia.
I would love to. Lock me in. We'll find a good time.
Absolutely. I know the time when not to talk to you, when you're on the radio early in the morning.
That's right.
Indeed, yeah.
So, Mike, why would people come to Technology People?
Well, it's a great question, and I get asked all the time. And I mentioned a bit earlier there that I'm quite privileged, but our business, and it's not just me, by the way, the strength of the people around me everywhere in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, we're part of a long-term IT recruitment specialist team. We're in that hard-to-find spot. Whenever you want that unique candidate with a unique skill set from a unique culture, that's literally, it's going to be the right fit for you as a client, they tend to come to us, and that's what we built our business on. So our team have been in IT industry for well over 15 to 20 years. We've achieved all sorts of industry accolades. We've built that on not only capability, but also on service. And I think that's something that trust is, we give an enormous amount of trust. And we deliver what we promise we will. We're not perfect because we're dealing with humans. So effectively, that's the reality of it all. But we care. And I'm proud to say, and this is one of the internal measures that we literally talk about all the time, is every one of our clients, since we open the doors, they're still with us. There's not one client that's walked away from us in the context of that they might not give you a request every second week or whatever, but they always come back when there's a need. And that to me is the ultimate sense of satisfaction, and that's why we love our customers and our candidates, because we'll never let them down. We'll never stop trying. And again, that's the world of work that even with all the changes that we spoke of a little earlier there, that adopting, that career advisory, that support, because not every candidate is successful for their role, but we try and endeavour to build career lifetime relationships.
Well, it's an absolute testament that everyone puts their trust in you, because trust is the biggest thing you can give to someone.
You can't break it, can you, Olympia? Once you do, you've lost it. You've lost them. So, indeed, it's never lost on us. And in fact, in every board meeting we have, and every meeting we have, the client is first and foremost on the agenda.
So you've got a podcast.
I do.
You're the director of Technology People.
Yes.
You've also got a sporting company as well.
Yes, I'm very fortunate. I have a business partner in Steve Scanlon, who is the CEO of ARC Sports, and myself and a number of others are directors and shareholders in the business, and that's just going great guns, and what we're doing there. And we love our boxing, and we've been involved in that for a while, what it does for the community. We love our rugby league. There's some big announcements coming that way that I'm not allowed to talk about today.
Oh, can't get the scoop?
So, well, you can on 4BC on the weekends with Olympia Kwitowski, you can. I'll do that, yeah. So super excited about that. And we've got a small stake holding in a gymnasium down in the Gold Coast, which is just about finalised, with the Maloney boys, and super excited to get in training there. And and in addition to that, we've got a couple of other little business ventures, and I do involve myself a little bit in charity and community events, like we all do. And that's what gives me enormous amount of fulfillment, and a little bit to do with the arts as well. I'm a big fan, that's the best way to describe it, of Queensland Ballet, and wonderful people. And gee, if you haven't been to Midsummer Night, by the way, go and see it.
Isn't it fantastic?
Loved it, absolutely.
How amazing are the Queensland Ballet? They're not really given a lot. They're almost running like a charity, and they really just need so many people to support them. And I say to anyone, I'm sure you would as well, Mike, if you haven't been to the ballet recently, get on out there and support it.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, it's not just the entertainment, by the way. As a business, and what we've done is all of our clients are always looking to be as innovative as they possibly can, to be as creative and do something different. But the infrastructure there, and thinking a bit outside the box, I was also invited to an event where the host held an event at the Gold Class Cinema, so you could do product launches in the Gold Class Cinema there and a big shout out to Event who invited me. But effectively, little ideas like that, you've got to think outside the square to build your business and be a little bit interesting. And I think that's the key. If you can stand out from the crowd, not only in delivery, but enjoy what you do. We've supported the Brisbane Bullets in days gone by, which we love to do. And we try and involve our families. The Technology People ethos is this. We're not the ones that will be, we love going to the state of origin and going to the Caxton and all that sort of thing. But our love is actually with the families. We love entertaining families. And that's why we try and get as many of the community involved, because we represent the community. We recruit from the community. And that's what we're passionate about. And I believe that the growth that we have, and we're growing all the time, we've moved 3 times since I started the business because of growth. And I believe that I don't want to keep doing that because the rent costs are incredible. But in the end, it's I've just been blessed. And Technology People is just honoured to be considered a supplier of choice with so many of our clients.
Well, you're super busy. You have so many hats that you wear. What do you like to do in your spare time when you have some?
Well, a lot of people say, how do you get all this stuff done? And you must be I'm busy, but I'm not manic. And I've got to say, I do fall asleep on the couch on Saturday afternoons if I'm watching whatever. I watch some rubbish on TV, on Netflix or whatever the case may be. But you can get things done if you're quite purposeful in what you do. But at the same time, I'm getting on a bit these days, Olympia, so I don't have the same energy as, say, someone your age. But I do pace myself and I like to keep fit. And because I think that's so important, because that in itself keeps one going. But the one thing you do realise as you get a little bit older, life's not permanent. You've got to enjoy every day, and you've got to sometimes push through your comfort zones and do stuff. Otherwise, the days can just disappear. So as long as your health is there for you, I think it's critical for every one of us to have some balance. And balance means not mean just shutting down and just looking at your phone for 3 hours or whatever. Balance means be curious. And that's what I give my own advice to anyone, is to continue being, regardless of your age, be curious, try different things.
What are some of the things that you do to be curious?
Well, I'm really keen and continually refining what I do in terms of my sporting life and what I love to do. And I'm also curious to learn a little bit more about the world of music and a little bit more about neuroscience. Because not controlling the brain, what am I saying? I mean, talking about learning about how the brain works, but controlling in the sense of how can I condition my thinking and really utilise every neuron up there as best as possible. So that sort of intrigues me. So when I won't ever use the word retire, but when there's more time, I'd like to explore that. And I still have this great dream of living in Vienna for a number of years and playing the violin and drinking coffee on any given morning. Now, people will laugh at that, but it's still something that I think, how cool would that be?
But you just painted a beautiful picture then.
Indeed, I know, I can, a few yards to go before I get there, but in essence, and I think, who knows what my answer will be in 12 months, 2 years' time.
Well, on one hand, you've got neuroscience, the other you've got Vienna.
There we go. I think that's a winner. Yeah.
So what's next?
Great question. I really don't know. I mean, I'm going to continue. In fact, at the end of this day, I've got a Teams call with a couple of interested folk who want to explore a particular idea that I have no clue what they want to do. They realise the bandwidth of time is somewhat limited. However, I think it's because if you ask a lot of questions of the world you're in, a lot of opportunities come. Some will be good, some will be not so good. Some you'll make the right decision, sometimes you'll make the wrong decision, but it doesn't take long to fix. So long as you have an exit strategy on everything, you'll do all right. So what's next for me is to constantly think of the future, absolutely, but be very mindful of being in the present, because that in itself is, if you can slow time down a bit, this is just my own personal philosophy, and realise that even now in this interview, it's so enjoyable talking with you and sharing some ideas and just shooting the breeze a bit. But the fact is, that's what's critical. I think it's so important you're mindful of the different thing, being present, experiencing it all for what it is, and look again for tomorrow to do it again.
I think that's a really good point you make there. I think so many of us are not present, particularly with our phones. We feel as though we're attached to them 24/7 sometimes. We even wake up in the middle of the night to check our phones for the fear of missing out on something. I feel as though everyone really does need to have that reminder to be present, to put the phone away and really just focus on what's in front of them. I get sometimes so disappointed to be driving around perhaps my local area and seeing someone walking their dog and they're on their phone the whole time. I think, put your phone down And look at your dog.
I've seen it too often.
Isn't it sad?
It is indeed. It's like zombies, honestly. And by the way, these things are highly addictive, you know, and no, I don't think and there is a lot of stuff out there about how to manage the iPhone, your mobile phone as best you possibly can, but they're built for addiction. But as I said, the more that we can control it, that doesn't control us, the better we'll be, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
So Mike, what are some of the current trends in the market?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's ever changing in that regard. And so what our clients are telling us, and I mentioned a bit earlier there that I'm involved, and all our people are involved in workforce planning sessions with our clients, particularly in the world of IT, just because they've got to look at what they need, because IT serves as both enabling the business to do what they would do in the most efficient way possible, saving costs, but also bringing about innovation, etc. But so the trends are quite, from a people side of things, definitely, and trend may be the wrong word I would use, but diversity and inclusion is to the fore in every conversation we're having. And so it should be, because if you want to bring about creativity, you want to bring about a culture of choice, then you should look at every representation that we have in Australia today and the world in terms of culture, gender, neurodiversity, disability, all of representations. It doesn't matter, LGBTI, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. They're all people, they're unique, they've got incredible talent, and that's what we endeavour to represent in our candidate community. So definitely diversity and inclusion. It makes business sense. So even if you push the moral and ethical code aside, it makes business sense to have a very sound D&I policy and work and execute on it really well.
And how are we doing in terms of inclusion?
There's ticks and crosses across the whole organisation and across Australia. We still have pay parity issues between male and female in certain areas. We have underrepresentation of females in IT, and that can only really that change of significant can only happen really in the education as youngsters coming through high school and into university to take a career in IT. So that is happening, but I think it's going to take another generation before we have anywhere near representation in terms of numbers. But the world it's a knowledge economy we live in now, so I like to think that balance will happen sooner rather than later. So that's, we're doing okay. I'm talking from the Australian business community, generally okay. First Nations is a critical one. First Nations to get more involved with what I call non-typical careers, and IT certainly one of them. And I do think that there's a truckload more work that needs to be done to ensure there's opportunity given to our First Nations in that regard. Neurodiversity is interesting, and how we're doing quite well. I think that's one that I think we're slowly getting better in terms of understanding that for those that, dyslexia, Richard Branson talks about dyslexia all the time in terms of it was an impediment at school. Yeah, look where it got him. In that context. So there's the classic case study of success in that regard. So other workforce trends is that the typical working at home, working in the office, there's that unique tension that's still not quite there. There are mandates of some companies are mandating people come back to work.
Get out of the PJs and back in the office.
Indeed. But there is a candidate community that's pushing against that. There's one unique problem one of our clients mentioned the other day is their policy is in terms of to have everyone in the office. The choice of the people is everyone loves being in the office. But if they go and recruit, the candidate community external at business doesn't want to come into the office. So they've got this unique challenge where they love coming to the office, the policy's on the office, but from an external point of view or whatever. So we're working with them to sort of how we can really, dare I say, bring their employment value proposition to life. And that's something we do quite well. See, there's a lot of companies out there that talk about employment branding. And a lot of it, they'll talk about it, but I don't think they really execute that well. And what I mean by that is, it's not in the DNA of the joint. In other words, companies who say, we're a great place to work. But if that doesn't materialise into action at every four corners of that company, then to me, you haven't got a good employment value proposition. So what we endeavour to do is make sure we amplify all the good things about, say, 4BC, and then we talk about all the great things that's being on 4BC, everything from, yes, there's a table tennis table and all that sort of carry on.
The perks.
And the perks, absolutely. But also, what about from a career trajectory point of view? What will I learn? Will I work on interesting stuff? Will I work on something that will have an end? Will I work on something that will have a material benefit? Will I have something that I can show at the end of my tenure here that's going to be so beneficial to my career moving forward? So they're the things that we really work hard on. And that's the, and it takes, it's hard work. I mean, when I say hard work, you've really got to invest heavily in it. You've got to invest the time and understanding of your client and your candidate. And that's what I think technology people do really well.
Well, Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. Your insights are amazing and you're just such a great guy to talk to. How can people find out more about Technology People and how can people reach you directly?
Thank you, Olympia. Well, they can reach out to me, probably the best is LinkedIn, to message me directly, and I'm on there. And from a Technology People point of view, please click on our website, technologypeople.com.au, and I think that they can be able to see both clients and candidates, can see who we work with, what opportunities we have, etc., and learn a little bit about who our team is. And super excited to be interviewed by you today. It's exciting, and also our podcast, Career Journeys and Aspirations, will be released in the next 3 to 4 weeks with our first guest, and I'm really excited about that.
I'm excited about it too, and I look forward to having a chat with you when you can interview me on the podcast.
Done deal.